What a weekend it has been already, and we are not done yet. Welcome back to the Prediction Show, where today we head to Anfield. That's right, Liverpool hosting Arsenal in what is probably too early to be called a title decider, but it does feel like these are the two strongest teams in the league going into this. The data certainly backs that up, as we will see. I've put together three selections, two sensible bet builders and one a little bit more outlandish. I said it's been a fantastic weekend, and this is the reason why. Well done if you were on this from our previous Premier League video. It's because of you that I am sat here on Sunday morning recording this, because it smashed the target of 1,000 likes. So well done and thank you for that. The same applies for this video, of course, but in this video I really just want to get your comments. Add your predictions for this game in the comments. Who's going to win? Will Eze make an instant impact on his Arsenal debut? Will Salah continue his impressive record against Arsenal? We'll get into his data a little bit further in the video, but remember to get all your comments and predictions in the comments. We're going to start by taking a look at Arsenal, how they come into this, and then we'll move on to Liverpool. Then we'll look at the player props tool. Then we'll look at some of the data on the website ahead of this game, look at the last 25 games, and all that will formulate our sensible bet builders for this game. Now, many people do think this will be a tight game, and that comes from Arsenal's incredible defence. They have not conceded more than 2 goals in a game since December 2023, and that was a thrilling game against Luton Town. If you remember the Declan Rice glancing header which won that right at the end. Another interesting and pretty impressive stat, I think this is an unbelievable stat to be honest, which Arsenal have been shouting about themselves on their own website. They have not lost a top 6 game, a game against top 6 opponents since 2023. That is a 22 game streak. That's crazy. Say what you want about Arteta and the potential failures and, finishing second and coming close, but not close enough to the Champions League and other competitions. He does well against big opposition. He does well in these types of games, and that is absolute proof. They don't lose. They rarely lose. Will that be the case come 5-6 p.m. tonight? Will they still be unbeaten? Will it be a 23-game unbeaten streak? Or will Liverpool have won against them for the first time in a while, by the way, as we'll see when we jump to Liverpool's data? They're also 15 games unbeaten away from home, Arsenal. Many people think they're the best team in the league, and it's hard to disagree with them at this moment in time, given the signings that they've made. Eze coming in now as well, potentially for his debut today, is an unbelievable signing. Gyokeres, Eze and Madueke potentially might be the front three, but I could see Martinelli starting as well, even though he's not been great. We mentioned those 22-game unbeaten streak against the big teams. Martinelli has started 21 of those games, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him. So we saw the predicted lineup there, and I do believe Arsenal have got a big chance here to target the right-back area for Liverpool. If it's Szoboszlai, if it's Conor Bradley, who potentially will start this game. He's 50-50. He's just come back from an injury himself. Frimpong is injured. I just think if you've got Calafiori, Eze, Gyokeres floating over there, Declan Rice also in that space, those 4 players pressing and winning the ball back and, combining in that area, even if it's Martinelli, I think that spells real danger for Liverpool. And speaking of Liverpool, let's take a look at them. And Liverpool winless in 6 games against Arsenal. And they'll be hoping that Mo Salah can help them out and help them break that trend, because he has 11 Premier League goals against Arsenal in his career so far. Bit of team news, as I mentioned previously, Conor Bradley is 50-50 for this one, and they could do with him really, because Liverpool just keep conceding at the moment, don't they? Improvement is needed. I think it's 13 of the last 16 games now have ended with BTTS landing. Arsenal don't concede many goals, but Liverpool, despite conceding, they are still scoring. They've scored in 98% of Slot's Premier League games. This is actually a Premier League record. 39 of his 40 games, they have scored. Just the Nottingham Forest game where they lost last season 1-0 at home, that is the only game in the Premier League where they have not scored under this manager. It is a Premier League record, 98% after a certain threshold of games, obviously. So a 37-game streak in terms of scoring. Will they continue that run, or will Arsenal's defence be too much for them and Salah and Ekitike and Gakpo and Wirtz? When you reel off the names for both sides, you can't help but see goals for both teams in this one. So these are the games being played in the Premier League today. Nottingham Forest, West Ham. I will give some brief predictions for these games, but we're going to focus, of course, on the big one. Nottingham Forest 2-0, I think, will be the score against West Ham. Massive improvement needed at West Ham, of course, and if they lose this one without any sort of performance, I think Potter will be the first manager to be sacked. Brighton host Manchester City, and I think there will be goals in this one. Brighton scored 6 in the week in the Carabao Cup, of course, against lower league opposition, but still Man City will need to bounce back as well. The pressure is on them already, given the defeat at home to Spurs. Liverpool Arsenal we're going to cover in a moment, and Aston Villa Crystal Palace. Well, Palace have had a couple of 1-1 draws. I wouldn't be surprised to see another one in this game, and that is unless Aston Villa can improve and they can get more from Watkins and get him into the game, because really he has not had a sniff yet this season. Paqueta, incidentally, joining Aston Villa. I do not expect him to feature for West Ham, and what a blow that is for them. Jarrod Bowen cannot do it all on his own. So taking a look at the data, of course, we've only played 2 games so far, so we'll take a look at the last 25 games worth of data. We're looking at overall form here. We can see Liverpool score more goals. Arsenal concede fewer goals. In terms of clean sheets, 37% to 31%. Away from home, we can see they've conceded just 9 goals across this period. Pretty good stuff. One metric I did want to look at is second half goals for Liverpool. I have included it in the selections in the next section, as you'll see, because when we scroll down here, there has been a second half goal in 90% of games across the last 25 for Liverpool. If we look at home games, it goes down a little bit to 87. But when we scroll down even more, in terms of scoring in the second half, it is 73% for Liverpool, and they've got a knack of scoring late goals already this season. Just given the way Arsenal might set up in this game, could the first half be a little bit tight? Could most goals be seen in the second half? As always, get your predictions and your thoughts in the comments. Look forward to reading them as ever. We will take a look at the referee. It is Chris Kavanagh. We'll take a look at his Premier League record from last season. 4.56 cards per game, 3.12 cards per game in the second half. We saw that Arsenal were averaging, 3.8, 3.9 cards per game as well. Both teams booked in 76% of his games, and we can have a look at the cards he produces in the second half. Again, this is going to come into the predictions a little bit later. Over 1.5 cards in 72% of his games. So before we use OddAlerts AI, which featured on our previous Premier League video, the comments, again, fantastic. You all seem to be loving that, so we will do it again after the international break, me versus AI. For this video, we're just going to see what it says, and I'm just going to show you my predictions after that. So the probability model, which powers the value betting on OddAlerts here, is narrowly favouring Liverpool, given their superb home record over the last couple of years. 42% to the 32% of Arsenal. The model is expecting a couple of goals at least. 78% for over 1.5 goals. But interestingly, under 3.5 goals also very high. So 1-1, 2-1 could be the play. BTTS, yes, 57.55%. So even just from those basic outputs of the probability model, you can kind of get a feel for what it's trying to predict with this game. Now let's use the AI and generate a simulation. and we'll go away. There's been some more updates on this now. It now has access to the last 25 games worth of data. Also has access to historic XG now as well. Liverpool score at least one goal in 92% of games. We see there as well, Arsenal generate most shots in 76% of games, and that is higher than Liverpool's at 56. Can they do it at Anfield though? Will they have more shots than Liverpool in this game? Let us all know in the comments, of course, what you are on. I always find corners interesting as well for Arsenal. It's such a big tool in their arsenal, but I looked at the head-to-head, and against Liverpool, they only had one corner in the previous meeting. But of course, they've got different kind of wingers now, haven't they? If they have Eze and Madueke, I think Eze is a superb signing, whether he starts or not. Tactical and statistical breakdown. Liverpool average 2 goals per game, 1.72 XG. Arsenal average 1.96 goals per game and 1.7 XG. So basically, these teams are very, very close. Shot volume, Arsenal's is marginally lower. And again, it mentions the most shots on target. Defensively, Liverpool are not as good as Arsenal. We know that, but it's good that you can just get it in a summary here. BTTS in 64% of Liverpool's games. Will it happen today? For me, I can sort of see a 1-1 game with one team winning it potentially. We've seen a lot of BTTS happen with Liverpool. I think 13 in the last 16 games now. Corner frequency is high. Liverpool 10.68 corners per game. Arsenal 9.32. So Arsenal, I think, if they could, they would win as many corners as they possibly can, because it's such a good tool that they have. They score so many of them. Value betting opportunities, home win is value, but only just 0.61. Final recommendation is Liverpool to win at 2.4. The backup option, higher risk, it says, is BTTS at 1.66. While the market is slightly undervalued, the percentage that it gives it is high. Let's also do a fixture simulation, shall we? We get a 2-1 Liverpool victory. Most common scoreline was 1-1. So, you know, a lot of people thinking the same way as the AI at the moment. Of course, when you get a team like Arsenal, they're so very well set up defensively. It's unlikely that there's going to be many goals. As we mentioned in the intro, their defensive record is superb. Right, let's jump to the player props tool for a second and then put together our selections. So the player props tool, I will link this in the description if you want to check it out. As you can see, many leagues supported. Rangers Celtic also being played today. You click on a game, it'll load both sets of players, it'll combine them. But we're not looking at Rangers Celtic, we are looking at Arsenal against Liverpool. And we'll take a look at the last 10 games. We can see Max Dowman appeared there for goals across the last 15, but it is including all his under-21 appearances and stuff. So we are looking here at goals. Let's take a look at fouls drawn, shall we? So Max Dowman again at the top of the pile. Miles Lewis-Skelly, I expect both of those players to be on the bench. Gyokeres wins a lot of fouls, also commits some fouls as well. Eze. And as you'll see by my selections, I've kind of gone with the players that we know are going to start. It's difficult to put Eze on without your bet being voided, or unless you're putting these on right up to kickoff when you know the selections, the lineups. Same goes with someone like Conor Bradley. Is he going to play? Is Szoboszlai going to play at right back again? Yet to be seen. Now let's look at fouls. Who's committing the most fouls across this period? We see that Ekitike is up there as well as the pressing forward. He just gets about. He does commit a lot of fouls. Marino, another one. Odegaard has travelled with the squad, but he did go off injured in the previous game. He could start this game, but I do have a feeling Odegaard will play, and it will be Rice, Zubimendi and Odegaard. But if Marino does start, he is, of course, a good option for a foul. We can scroll down, and then you'll start to see that we have the averages as well. So we can see tackles on average, who's making the most tackles. Kiwor, Bajacik, Timber, again, another one. I would have loved to have put him or Rice in some of the options for maybe fouls and tackles, but given how Timber played in the previous game, it's anyone's guess whether it will be Ben White or Timber at right back there. And this is the problem. It's a good problem for Arteta to have. They're both fantastic players. Now, in terms of fouls on average, we can take a look because it might be slightly different. Timber then goes to the top, excluding the top player there because he's out on loan, I think. 1.5 fouls per game. Hugo Ekitike up there again, 1.44. McAllister in the middle. Kai Havertz is injured. Florian Wirtz. We'll take a look now at shots on target. And we can see shots on target on average. Gyokeres, Jesus, who probably won't play, and Ekitike. So Gyokeres and Ekitike really the prime options. 2.2 shots on target per game across his last 10. Now, most of them were for Sporting, of course, but he's still, you feel, going to be licking his lips, Gyokeres, at the chance of playing against this Liverpool defence. Obviously, he wants to test himself, and coming up against Van Dijk is the biggest and probably the hardest test in world football at the moment, but also the space that Liverpool have left strikers in recent games. He will get a lot of space in those channels, Gyokeres, and that's where he is very, very effective. So before I show you my selections, I've got 3, remember, 2 sensible, 1 a little bit more outlandish. I'll go through the reasoning for all of it as well. I just wanted to show you the shot on target markets because there's a lot of respect here for Arsenal because these prices are pretty good compared to what they would be if Liverpool were just playing at home against Brentford or whoever. Wirtz at 1.6, Gakpo at 1.72. He's been amazing this season, cutting in from the left-hand side. Hugo Ekitike at 1.72 is probably the standout for me before you then get to some other obscure players that, could have a shot really, but unlikely. I think Van Dijk from a corner at 5s is an interesting single if you wanted to go there. But this is just to show you the respect and the acknowledgement of the immense defensive capability, really, of Arsenal. You just have to look at the odds sometimes. Cody Gakpo and Ekitike, I think, are the standouts there. Let me know who you think will have a shot on target in this game. And just quickly, I will show you the Arsenal odds as well. Also pretty enticing, to be honest. And again, it comes, I think, from the fact that people are not really sure who's going to start in this game. It's not as set in stone as the Liverpool front four. Gyokeres, of course, 1.53, still a okay price, really. I think he will get a lot of space in this game. Eze, are people expecting Eze to start? Because 1.57 is pretty short odds, isn't it? Maybe he's going to come straight in to the team. He's match fit. He's been playing for Palace, of course. Max Dowman at 1.72, the 16-year-old. So my first selection, here it is, and I've just gone through them, and too hard to ignore, really. Gyokeres and Ekitike to both have a shot on target, and both teams to be booked 3.1. I think they are the obvious choices in this game. Ekitike has been very, very impressive. He took his goal well again against Newcastle. Gyokeres, a brace against Leeds, just what he needed. He'll be full of confidence, and as I say, licking his lips at the space on offer. Liverpool conceding 2+ goals in most games at the moment. BTTS landing. Arsenal will get chances, and he is their number 9. If he plays with Eze as well, that's just another creative outlet with potential to feed him in this game. Ekitike, of course, as I say, doing well. Both teams to be carded. We looked at the data. We looked at the referee data as well. So 3.1. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. And the next selection, here it is. Konate foul. Now, that right back area for Liverpool is a concern. Konate has to go over there a lot, and he has committed fouls in the opening few games of the season. BTTS to land, and I think as well, Gyokeres against Konate, if Gyokeres is smart, he'll position himself on Konate rather than Van Dijk. And why wouldn't you do that? Because it's more towards that right back area as well, where I think Arteta will target that right back area. The players that they can have in that space can really hurt and outnumber Liverpool, more importantly. So Konate to commit a foul, getting stretched out in there, and coming up against Eze as well in that same area. BTTS to happen, and Arsenal to get over 1 card. Now, if Arsenal take the lead and they are protecting that lead, I expect Arsenal to get cards no problem. Their defenders are big and tall. They're not necessarily the quickest. Calafiori, they're just huge, just athletes, aren't they? I think they are more than likely to pick up a card or two in this game. As they just take those tactical fouls, and it's a big reason why they don't concede sometimes, So 3.1, again, sweet spot for me. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. Now, the next one is a bit more outlandish, and we looked at those second half goal data, didn't we, for Liverpool? BTTS in the second half, for them to just score in the second half is 1.68 or 1.72 or something, but I just thought, well, maybe Arsenal get a goal in the second half. Maybe the first half is a bit tighter. Maybe no team wants to lose or make a mistake, especially Liverpool, given that they were pretty poor against Newcastle at times. Madueke shot on target as well. I think his data isn't great for it, but this is only his third game for Arsenal. I think it's his first start maybe, or his second start, and if he starts, he's going to be on that right side. I cannot see the 16-year-old Dowman playing in this game. If Saka's injured, this is why you've bought Madueke, to be the person that fills in for Saka. And he's impressed me. I've always been impressed with Madueke. He's very direct. He can go both ways. And he's kind of just what you need, somebody to beat the man and get that ball across the 6-yard box for your number 9, who wasn't there last year, now is in Gyokeres. So Madueke shot on target and BTTS in the second half is my more higher risk, sort of outlandish selection at 5.5. So I bet some of you, when I said it was outlandish, you're probably thinking odds of 10, 15, 20, but there's no point. You still want probability to be on your side as much as possible. So that is the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Who's going to win this game? Who will be top of the table tonight? Liverpool hosting Arsenal. I cannot wait for this one. Get your predictions in, and I will see you in the next one.